Hello and welcome everyone to another webinar on G Suite and G Suite Enterprise for Education. Today's topic, we're going to be focusing in on the investigation tool. We've got a short link for you here on the page. It's ampd.it/investigation-tool. That's going to be repeated at the top of some of the slides. So if you're not catching that right now, you can definitely see that in the top right corner on most of the other slides we're going to go through. So you can get that down. It's also on the resource page for the registration on the website as well. Welcome. My name's Tom Woods. I'm the Google for Education training lead here at Amplified IT. My background is in IT technology for about the last 30 years or so, and I've been in educational IT technology for around 19 or almost 20 years, and with Amplified IT here for almost 6. So welcome. Real quick background, if you're not familiar with us, Amplified IT, we're a technical consultancy company based out of Norfolk, Virginia, and we work with K-12 schools and school districts and also higher ed institutions on helping them navigate through the best practices and educational use of Google for Education in schools and in educational facilities. So we work with the IT teams, which I think is probably a lot of our viewership today, and help make sure you've got things configured for best practices, and that'll be a setup that'll help support the success for both staff and students and your office users in G Suite for Education. We work with districts all the way from an independent school of 100, 200 students, all the way up to, we've worked now with 10 of the largest 15 districts in North America. We were a global partner of the year a few years ago with Google, and we've got a great relationship here with the Google team. And we're going to be taking you through the information today. All right, so the agenda as it sits, we're just going to give you a quick overview of what's named the Security Center, and within that is the investigation tool. So we'll go through that, and then we'll get right into the investigation tool and show you what that is and what it can do for you. We'll go over a couple real quick, really great educational-based use cases, some ways that this tool can immediately be valuable to you. We'll also look at a couple additional ways that you can move into this tool while you're looking at some other information and launch to it. And then we'll make sure we leave a few minutes at the end for some question and answer. Devin from Google is on as well, monitoring the chat, and she'll be taking some of your questions and bringing them in for me to answer live, and also answering some of the questions in the chat if she's able to as well for you. And again, just to make mention, the website that you arrived at here today in order to register for this, and the link there is in the bottom left, also has a recordings and resources tab on it. And if you make your way back to that website, you can go back and look at the sessions that all happened last week. If there's any that you want to then register for and access the recordings, and then you can see all the upcoming sessions that are happening over the next few weeks and get registered for all of those if you haven't done so already as well. That's under the recordings and resources section of the registration page. Again, the slide deck URL is up in that top right corner. So if you missed that off the title slide, it's repeated throughout here and you'll be able to access that. So let's take a look. First of all, you'll notice in a lot of the literature for Enterprise for Education, one of the features mentioned is Security Center. And we like to just explain this because you won't immediately see anything that's actually called Security Center. Security Center, I guess, arguably is more of a bit of a marketing name that signifies a few of the different security-based tools that Enterprise gives you here in the console. Put together, those are the Security Center. What that really boils down to here is once you have Enterprise for Education on your domain and some licenses applied to your users, your security menu here will grow. You'll notice some extra options here on the security menu. In general, the term Security Center refers to the security dashboard, the investigation tool, and the security health area, for the most part, combined to create that Security Center, as it's called. Today, we're going to be focusing on that investigation tool for sure. Again, a nice graphic there. If you need to refer back to what the Security Center is, just think of it as the extended features that then appear on your security menu after getting Enterprise for Education. All right, so let's take a look at the investigation tool and what that gives you. There's a lot of slides here in the deck. I may not be going through them all. I'll be doing a lot of demonstration in the console, and the slides are here mostly for your reference. So we'll come back to them, but we won't be following along on them exactly. If we go over to the left menu option on the side and drop that out and go to security, we are going to control our mouse a little bit better, and we're going to click on investigation tool. All right, so this is what I would call kind of one of the hero features of Enterprise for Education. This is a banner feature. The investigation tool has a lot of value baked into it, and it is a large portion of the benefit that you're going to get out of Enterprise for Education for sure. And I wondered if it was going to happen. I tried as hard as I could to stay signed in before we went live. And of course, that 5-minute security timeout always going to get you. There it is. All right, so we've launched the investigation tool, as you can see here at the top. It's sitting on an open search box, and we can stack up multiple searches here. We can use the plus button to add additional searches, search 2, search 3. And in the interest of solving a problem or investigating something, we may stack up different searches in Gmail or Drive or other areas to try to tell the whole story of what we're investigating. So if you keep that in mind, this will all make sense here. Taking a look at what we can search for, and we're just running a search here right from square one. We've got device log events. So these are going to be the 180-day logs kept under reports for managed devices, managed Chrome OS devices, managed Windows and Mac OS devices, and the transactional events, things that have happened along the lines of management of those devices. You can see different factors and different things that are happening. That's what device log events is going to give you. The next one here, and we're gonna dive into a couple of these in the use cases. The next one here is live devices info. So not really restricted to the 180 days that's in the report section. This live device info is the current state of those Chrome OS, Windows, and managed Mac devices as they are in the console. So looking at attributes, looking at current states, that's what that search is going to give you. Next one is drive log events. And again, this data for the log events is coming from the logs under reports that everyone gets for G Suite for Education. The real difference here is under reports, those logs are cumbersome. You have to kind of filter through them yourself. You have to export them out of the console and maybe go work with them in Google Sheets or other tools. This investigation tool gives you, first of all, a really easy to use, friendly interface, a graphical interface to look through these logs in smart, intelligent ways. And then probably most importantly, once important information is found, you can actually take actions on that. And we're going to see that as well. And that's the real big difference here with the investigation tool. But because the data is based on what's under reports, almost everything under reports is limited to 180 days of retention in the admin console. So these searches for all these different log event types are also going to be limited to going back 180 days. Drive log events, the one piece I think I want to mention there, a lot of people misconstrue that with doing a live Google Drive search. I'm going to search through Google Drive, everyone's current contents of Google Drive as it sits right now today. That is not what this search is. Again, it's based on the logs. So if you think transactional, something has to have happened with Google Drive for it to be stamped in the log. Someone edited a doc, someone printed a doc, someone shared a file, someone changed the link sharing on a file. Those all get entered into the log because they're an event that has occurred. That's what this is going to find for you. There's some opportunity to search titles and things like that. But this isn't what you'd find in some of the partner tools outside of G Suite for Education, an actual Drive live content search. There's some ways under DLP and stuff that we can get some of those other tasks done for sure. Gmail log events, this is the one caveat, the one exception where the Gmail transactional log events in the reports area of the console are limited to 30 days, not 180. So if you're using Gmail log events and think senders, receivers, IP addresses, header information, things like that, that's going to be searchable for up to 30 days back. Gmail messages search, that is really unique. That is a live mailbox search. So think about all your staff and students, all your users that are in your G Suite account right now, searching their current Gmail mailboxes. That can include content of mail. So if we want to look for a keyword in mail throughout the whole district or throughout the whole organization, that is a live current mailbox search. So that one can be super powerful. We've got rule log events. That's going to come down to a feature here in the investigation tool where we can set up an automated activity rule. In other words, we can have a virtual search done for us automatically, hourly or daily by the tool. And then if results are found, take this action, like delete the email. And those can be set up as automated rules. And this is actually searching the log events of those automated rules you may create with this investigation tool. User log events. User log events, we're back to 180 days. And think again, the elements of sign-in, successful sign-in, failed sign-in attempts, where they're signing in from IP address-wise, password changes, anything to do with users that you can see under the reports audit area for user logs. You can then creatively search here. And then as you can imagine, users at the end is a live current user attribute search. So that's attributes for users, current status of users, like do they have two-step verification enabled on their account or not? That kind of live current status information can be searched with the user section. All right, so I've gone through all these. Like I said, there's a lot of slides here just outlining everything I said. I wanted them to be in here for you guys for reference. There's a great link to Google's support document here that will expand on these a little bit further. I just picked some of the highlights for these bullet points, including the 180 days or the 30, the timelines, so that you have that in mind when you're looking at these. Okay, and we're going to just take a look real quick at some additional options for the reseller, for the investigation tool. And then we'll take a look at some use cases and actually dive into using the tool. Over here on the side banner, we obviously have adding a second search, a third search, a fourth search, and building those up. We can define searches, have 3 or 4 searches on the go, and then maybe we want to save this and come back to it another day when possibly there might be new data if we rerun the searches. Or maybe we're saving it and then another G Suite admin coming into the console is going to take over from there. We can save our investigation. We can give it a name instead of draft, give it a description, and save it. We also then can view any of our saved investigations. And that's where if we're sharing it with another admin, they could then pick it up from there. You could also craft, some different searches and kind of use that as a template and then duplicate that and then just change names or change parameters and repeat that over and over again for sure. All right. And one thing we wanted to show here was the settings. So if we go into the settings here, obviously time zone, but more importantly, some really key features here. Requiring a reviewer. When we get looking here in a minute at some of the actions, if your actions like deleting mail or changing drive file sharing is going to affect 300 or more items or users or files or emails, then you can turn this on so that someone has to review and approve that. Another admin has to kind of give it the okay before you can actually take that large action. Can you view the contents of emails? That can be turned off if you want people to run the searches but not be able to see the actual body and content of the email. And then also a justification you can turn on that's on by default, where every time you go to look at an email or do some other tasks, it asks you to put in why you're doing this. And that gets logged into the admin audit logs under reports so that it's very clear and auditable who was doing what and why. So those are some great features to turn on there for sure. And we got some questions here real quick. We'll try to take a few now. From Dave, can you explain more what's possible at the device level? We're looking for device info to be able to confidentially report which user was logged into which device at which time and for how long. That's a tricky one, Dave. What we can do is when I jump back here, we'll take a look at some of the conditions that are available under device. And if you follow some of those support links we gave you earlier, on the support pages, they list out all the possible conditions you can search for. So if you had something in mind, you could see there in the support article whether that's a field or a condition that you can actually view. Do any of these reports from someone in the audience track website history for users? Unfortunately, the answer for that is no. None of these reports revolve around internet history or Chrome browsing history at all. And a follow-up from the devices question, it gives vague info, shows like the last 10 users. Okay, and I think for that question from Dave, possibly within the Chrome OS Chromebook properties in the admin console, you can see the most recent user logins up to a good 20, 30, 40 logins on a Chromebook outside of Investigation Tool and all this talk today. In just regular G Suite for Education, you can see who signed into a Chromebook from order of most recency down to least recency of users. So that is available per Chromebooks, and I'm trying to read fast. I'm not sure if that's necessarily your question or not. Let's jump into some use cases so that we have time to show this for sure. And what we're going to look at, here's some example use cases. We've worked with a lot of districts, a lot of schools and organizations with enterprise for the last almost 2 years now. And a lot of these come up, whether that's trying to combat phishing, seeing if you've received phishing emails, if they've slipped through, what's happened, have your users done anything with those emails, mitigating that, removing those emails out of mailboxes, taking a look at drive sharing. Why was something shared publicly to the whole world? What's happening internally within your domain for drive sharing, things like that. Compromised accounts, taking a look at high levels of failed password attempts, looking for sign-ins, maybe out of country from strange IP addresses that might signify a compromised account. Really great use case with whether it's email or drive, taking a look at sensitive information, well, whether that's individualized education plans, IEPs for students that shouldn't be maybe in Google Drive at all, shouldn't be shared through Drive, shouldn't be emailed as attachments to people. Things like that could easily be looked at as well. So let me jump back. I want to just go through a couple use cases so you can see this tool in action. We're going to go to the Gmail log events. This is the 30-day Gmail logs, transactional logs. And one of the conditions we can add here, and you can see, again, maybe to Dave's point, all the different things are listed here. They're going to be in the support pages as well. I'm going to go down to subject, and maybe on any given day, I want to just do a spot check of emails coming in with the word password in the subject. And if we do a search for that, you can see how quickly this works. It's going to produce some results. And we can see here emails that have the word password in the subject. And we can see who they're from, this shady Tom Woods guy from Amplified IT, going to various users like Melissa and Bill. And, you know, we can see in this case, Bill received this email and then he opened it and he also clicked on the link. So the event actions here can tell us a lot of the story. First of all, we might want to say, well, what is this email? We can click on the hyperlinks here for the mail. We can see the header information. We can go to message, put in our justification that's going to be logged in the console logs, and we can actually see the email itself. And we may look at this and say, yes, this is unsavory. This is malicious. This isn't from our IT department asking Bill, our superintendent, to change his passwords. And we know even from right here that Bill's clicked the link. So chances are he may have gone to that website or to that false, G Suite login screen that someone's created, maybe offered up his credentials. His account could very well be compromised. There's a lot of information here on the page as we go down that could be of use given the situation. What the URL is from that email is listed right here. You can kind of see changeyourpassword.com. What could we do? Well, for Bill, and maybe there's a list here of multiple people that have these emails sitting in their box, maybe opened or not opened yet, we can go over here to actions, and we can take actions in bulk, hundreds at a time. That's the power of this, whether it's mail or drive or users. We can take actions. And in the case of a mail search here, we can reach out and delete these email messages right out of everyone's mailboxes by the hundreds or thousands here in the console. We could mark them as phishing. We could mark them as spam. We could pull them out of their mailboxes and send them to a quarantine for someone to review later. Or in the right situation, maybe we want to turn this around. Maybe they're falsely classified as spam, and we want to send these back to everyone's inbox because they're Google Classroom emails that the students shouldn't be marking as spam. They're trying to, circumvent the teaching in the classroom by doing that. So lots of options here for mail. If we spin up another search and come down here, there we go, to the bottom. Let's just take a look at Drive because it's super interesting. Drive log events, again, up to 180 days and tons of conditions here. Not just the properties of Drive files, the type, the owner, the visibility now, the prior visibility, whether visibility was changed, the title of the file or document. Under the event condition menu, then we've got even deeper. You can imagine everything here. When a document was created, when it was deleted, did someone download it? Did they print it? Did they edit it? Did they change the link sharing? Did they view it? Did they upload files? Tons and tons of stuff here. So we could take a look at event is download, and let's maybe take a look at the visibility of the file or document is that it's shared external to the domain. So what's shared to the outside world that's being downloaded by people? And this could be external people, this could be internal people. And again, we can see documents here with their title, what type of document they are, what the current visibility is, and we can see some actions here where people are downloading these files. Maybe this is sensitive information that shouldn't be downloaded. Again, lots of columns of information. We'll show you the actions here real quick. We could pick a particular document, and under actions, we can add users to the ACL, to the sharing list. I want to just add myself as the administrator, and I'm going to go into this document. Now I can see the document quickly. I could look at the revision history, who typed what, who did what 2 weeks ago. You can't do that in Google Vault. All you get in Vault is a preview. So being able to add yourself to the sharing list is huge. You can dive right into the full file permissions, change the link sharing type to in-domain only or back to restricted private. You could make yourself the owner of multiple files and documents with one click. We could reach out, and for those that are collaborating on the documents, even though they may have edit, we can disable download, print, and copy for those files right from here, or we could remove users from the sharing list from here. So lots of great things there that can be done. Super, super powerful. Whether you're dealing with Drive or Mail or any of these other categories, then there's going to be appropriate actions here that you can take to remediate the situation and hopefully put some other pieces in place after this is done to mitigate and prevent things from happening. That may include those automated activity rules to then monitor things on a go-forward basis and take some automatic actions. So lots of great stuff there, whether we don't have the time, but getting into maybe sensitive files and documents, compromised accounts, everything of the sort. Cover real quickly, and then I know we have some questions, other ways to access this. Through the dashboard and through Alert Center can also lead you to the investigation tool. So if we come back here and we look at the Enterprise for Education Security dashboard, this was covered in a session last week. But if we were looking at external file sharing for the domain, and this peak or this graph or this spike was interesting to us, we could view the report. And once we're looking at the report, we have these quick buttons here that will launch us into the investigation tool. And you can see here, they'll open a new investigation. They'll pre-populate all the criteria needed from that report page so it's ready to go and initiate the search for us. And now I've got even more information on that particular document from that report, and I can take things further, maybe eventually take some actions. So launching from the dashboard is super powerful. The other area is Alert Center. Everyone in G Suite for Education gets Alert Center, but by having Enterprise for Education, it takes these alerts where you may read them and say, okay, that sounds important, but now what do I do? Any of these logged Alert Center pieces now have a quick launch to the investigation tool. So if one of these was of interest to us, we can again launch to the investigation tool. It's going to pre-populate that, run the search. Maybe we tweak it. Maybe we add some other criteria here, some other variables, and we can take that alert further and learn more about it before we decide maybe what actions we want to take on that Alert Center alert. So adding more power to the Alert Center is part of the benefit of Enterprise for sure, and it gives you that. So a couple other alternate ways to start an investigation. You may not always start one from scratch. You may be coming from the dashboard or another area and launching into that. Another quick reminder, today's recording, last week's recordings, the other sessions coming up in the next few weeks are all accessible on the registration page under Recordings and Resources tab there, and the links here on the screen. Also want to mention we are a Enterprise for Education partner for Google. And if you're purchasing Enterprise for Education, you haven't made that decision yet, we offer a lot of value adds here at Amplified IT, everything from helping you customize your licensing provisioning to make that super easy, an onboarding team, lots of training and support. We've got office hours. We've got webinars explaining these features. We're also able to provision and get Google Voice licenses for you as well. A lot of districts with remote learning are looking to pair those two things together for sure. All right, and without further ado, before we run out of time, let's take a look at the questions here. Devin's feeding me lots of questions. I'll see what I can get through. Justin's asking, is there any way to check Hangout chat or chat history between students to provide a nice export to principals? Justin, not in this tool as of now. That would be a Google Vault piece. You want to make sure your Vault retention policies are set to retain Google Chat, and also in your Google Chat settings, make sure that the history is on and locked in. Students can't turn it off. Those would be then viewable in Vault, and you have ways to export that in Google Vault, which everybody has access to in education, unlimited storage in Vault. So that would be your go-to for that. Brent's asking, is it possible to have an active investigation that will allow logs to be saved longer than 180 days? Great question, Brent. Wasn't something to touch on in this session, but I can mention it real quick. One of the other feature benefits of Enterprise for Education is a feature of exporting all your admin console logs to BigQuery. BigQuery is a service of Google's that's like a data warehouse in the sky, like a big SQL instance in the sky. So all of these logs that are limited to 180 days, or the mail log events to 30 days, and a lot of the adoption data, think everything you see under reports, can be automatically piped up to BigQuery almost immediately as it happens. And then once it's there, you can access BigQuery, using database calls of your own design, or something like Data Studio is a great free way to visualize that data in BigQuery. And we've done some demonstrations for Enterprise for Education on that for schools. So that would be your go-to there, is if you want to surpass that 180 days, using BigQuery is going to help you with that. Lorinda is asking, what features of Enterprise can be applied at the OU level? It's kind of a tricky question. Worth mentioning, everything we looked at today with the Security Center investigation tool, you get that as soon as you own any Enterprise licenses, even if it's the minimum 50 or 15% of your FTE staff. You then gain the Security Center, and it is global. It is not tied to who has licenses and who doesn't for staff and students. You can run those investigation tool searches we showed you today on anyone in the domain. So those are global. Those will work across everything. There are some unique features that you would possibly apply on an OU basis, like Gmail Sandbox for running attachments in a safe virtual space before they get to users, context-aware access. There's a few features that an administrator would enable in the console for Enterprise that you would do by an OU level. So there is a piece of that does come into play. Teresa's asking, if you know an email is spam and want to delete it, would you recommend marking as spam and then deleting them, or just deleting them? I think, Teresa, if you're comfortable with your position administratively of reaching in and doing something with those emails, I would imagine if you've identified it as definite spam or even dangerous spam or phishing, you'd probably be looking to just straight out delete it. Moving it to spam is really just a label. So from the end user's perspective, from 1 minute to the next, it's going to go under their spam label in their Gmail mailbox, but it's still there. And there's maybe still a danger they could click on it or do something with it. So I would imagine you're going to go straight to delete, would be my guess, but it is up to you for sure. And our friend Bryce is asking, can you use this tool to search for accounts that are automatically forwarding incoming emails to an external address? Not to my knowledge, Bryce. I know, Bryce, that there are GAM, Google Apps Manager commands. GAM is scripting to the APIs for G Suite. There's GAM commands you can run to generate, to a CSV file, a report of everyone in your domain that is auto forwarding to any address, let alone an external address. And we know that's a big security concern for a lot of folks as well, because wherever they're sending it to, Hotmail or Yahoo or even a personal Gmail, now they're circumventing whatever your policies are for retention and Vault and things like that. So if that is something you want help with, we've helped schools create those kind of GAM scripts and commands in the past, and we have support hour packages to help you guys get that done. You can definitely give us a shout and we can help you with that. Great question, though, for sure. Last couple minutes here from Brent. I think that was a repeat. Does the investigation tool cover chat and classic Hangouts? It does not at this time. Google Vault would be your tool for that. Freddie is asking, is it possible to have the IP of the user even when logging in a browser? Yeah, basically the user reports we saw there in the investigation tool and in reports of the admin console are going to log the publicly facing IP from whatever device or connection, even if it's NATed. Behind that, there is an outwardly facing IP address for any district or school, or if you're in a public scenario or library or cafe, that IP address is going to be logged under the user log reports, and that can be searched in the investigation tool. One of the demonstrations we've done in the past is, that person has clicked on that phishing, provided their password's now compromised, some nefarious persons in their account pretending to be them, and we can see that under the user logs, and we can see those IP addresses that probably don't match anything we own. We start doing just quick internet searches, lookups for those IPs, and we see, another country. We see, Russia or China or strange folks from Canada or something like that hacking those accounts. So you could do quick searches to look up those IPs and see where they're coming from. Another great question. All right. I think that's it for time. We're keeping these on time. So thanks everybody again for attending today. That is a wrap. Again, all the recording, link to the slide deck is all in the resources tab on the registration site. And we've got more sessions coming up this week. So please look and register for those and attend those, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.